Thank you so much. It is my sincere pleasure to be here with you this morning, filling in for Reverend Margaret. It's an honor for me to fill those shoes, because I know if you're here, it's because she has touched you in an amazing way, and I can only hope I offer a fraction of what she does. So, the Science of Mind textbook begins in chapter 1. We wish to discover what we believe in, why we believe in it, and why such a belief is reasonable, and so far as possible to enter in the nature of the invisible cause of this manifest life of ours. The word or a version of the word manifest appears almost 50 times in the Science of Mind textbook. In the Glossary of Science of Mind, manifestation is described as follows. To manifest means to show forth or to make evidence. Everything we see, plants, animal, man, every visible thing is a manifestation of God, differing only in degree, and every manifestation contains, in essence, the whole, as one drop of ocean water is as perfect in essence as the entire body of water. We are not all of God, of course, but the reality in us is God. As we make conscious use of the law, planting an idea in mind and watching it come forth into form, into objectivity, we are producing a manifestation. Now, if you're new to New Thought or religious science, you may be asking, what law? In religious science, law means mind in action. And when we talk about mind, we mean the universal mind of God or higher power or whatever you choose to call this invisible essence from which everything comes. The creative medium of spirit is the universal law of mind. You will often hear us refer to there as one mind. That was in Veronica's prayer. One mind, one life, that life is God, that life is my life now. We use the laws of mind and spirit for definite purposes, similar to how we use other natural laws, like gravity or thermodynamics or the speed of light. And just like those other natural or scientific laws, they are impersonal. It doesn't matter how spiritual you are. The law of mind and action responds to you whether you are aware of it or not. Whether you believe in it or not, gravity still exists, and you're still subject to it. You can't just simply float into space. I only know of 2 instances in the Bible where that supposedly happened. However, just like the law of gravity, for instance, which we can adjust to in order to make airplanes fly or hot air balloons lift off the ground, we can use the law of mind for specific purposes or manifestations. Our symbol is a visual representation of how this works. When practitioners offer a spiritual mind treatment, we're praying a 5-step prayer. The final step, which is the release of our word or prayer into the universal law. And let me demonstrate, because we actually have our symbol up here. We are placing this represents what we view as God. This top section represents what we refer to as divine mind. This middle portion is the law, and the bottom section is form. So when we're praying, we place the idea in the divine mind, which must act in accordance to our faith, trust, and conviction through law in order to bring forth the manifestation of our desire or prayer. And this V represents that transformation happening. We call this the creative process. This is how we believe it works. In the science of mind, since spirit must manifest in order to be conscious, there must be a way in which it manifests, and there must be a manifestation. So we have a soul and body. Body the manifestation, and soul the way or law by which it manifests. You are a physical manifestation of this law of mind and action. You are a spiritual being in physical form. The very act of your existence is evidence of this creative process. The Science of Mind textbook again. Infinite and immutable as the law is, ever present and available as it must be, the potential possibility of all human probability, it must flow through us in order to manifest for us. It has been proved that by thinking correctly and by conscious mental use of the law of mind, we can cause it to do definite things for us, through us. We can use this for definite purposes. The flip side is, you can also use it for unintended consequences, because this law acts according to our beliefs. So if we believe it will not work, guess what? It will not work. Some of you may be familiar with this old joke. A man was praying to God. He said, God? God said, yes. And the guy said, can I ask a question? God said, sure. God, what is 1,000,000 years to you? And God said, "A million years to me is only a second." The man wondered. And then he asked God, "What is $1 million worth to you?" And God said, $1 million to me is as a penny. The man asked, "God, can I have a penny?" God said, "Sure, just a second." The good news, this is just a joke. You don't have to wait 1 million years for $1 million if you set your intention with absolute faith and conviction that you will receive $1 million. Now, if it were that easy, everyone would do it, right? But then again, frankly, almost every spiritual tradition does tell us that this is absolutely possible. Jesus even declared it. If we had faith as small as a mustard seed, we could move mountains. Now, if moving mountains is your thing, go for it. But what does it mean to manifest? Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines manifest as, 1, readily perceived by the senses, and especially by the sense of sight. And he gives an example. Given in a dictionary, their sadness was manifest in their faces. It was evident. Or 2, easily understood or recognized by the mind, and then it narrows it down to obvious. And then a synonym for manifest is apparent. Obvious. Apparent. When we offer a spiritual mind treatment, we are stating the obvious. Of course my highest and best good is taking place. Of course I have found my soulmate. Absolutely I am living in the perfect house. I am perfectly complete, healed, and whole. Reverend Margaret is here. We are not wishing for something to happen. We are not asking for things as if God were a vending machine or Amazon Prime where we get free delivery. We are declaring an essential truth about ourselves. We are not all of God, of course, but the reality in us is God. $1 million literally is as a penny to us. This morning, I am going to share with you the first of 9 principles of manifesting Wayne Dyer describes in his book, Manifest Your Destiny. And this first principle is called becoming aware of your higher self. The important thing for us to grasp and understand is that we are not only physical beings living in the spiritual world. These are things that have already been said this morning, which is amazing to me. But non-physical beings who can tap into a higher level. While achieving this awareness to a higher self can happen instantaneously, but Wayne Dyer, pulling from Carl Jung's Modern Man in Search of a Soul, actually describes this as more of a 4-step developmental process of adulthood. These stages may not necessarily be in particular order, and they may actually become more or less prevalent during the entire process. You may go in and out of any one of these at any particular time. The first stage is the athlete, or our primary identification with a physical body. This is a time we are focused on appearances and physical abilities, and our sense of worth is derived from the approval we get on how we dress or how we look, or what we can physically perform. However, this is not a stage in which we can practice the art of manifestation. I'm not saying pursuing a healthy lifestyle isn't important and strength training are not worthy goals, but as Wayne Dyer puts it, to reach the ability to know and use our divine energy, we must move beyond our identification as being exclusively the physical body. The next stage is the warrior. The warrior stage is when the ego's desire to conquer the world takes over. Status becomes important. Earning that degree, gaining that position or promotion, or title, winning that trophy. It's the attitude of winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. When we are primarily focused on competition, acquiring, comparing, and winning at all costs, we may manifest certain material and physical possessions. However, this is not the context of being a manifester we are focused on. The next stage is the statesperson. This is a stage when we move beyond the stage of self-absorption, self-determination, and self-preservation. This is when we learn to derive a sense of purpose out of being of service to others. A statesperson can still be ambitious and often athletic. However, their focus shifts from an egocentric standpoint to being part of the community around us. Wayne tells the story of a man who interviewed Mother Teresa. When he asked her if there was anything he could do to help her cause, such as raise money or offer publicity, Mother Teresa declined and said that wasn't what she was about. But the man really wanted to help her and asked her once again what he could do. Her response was, you could wake up the next morning at 4 a.m., go out into the city streets and find someone who is alone, and convince him that he's not. That's what you can do. The spirit, the fourth stage, this is a stage where you recognize, or you begin to recognize your higher self. This is when we begin the act of co-creating. This is when we become a manifester. The unseen energy that was once in Shakespeare or Picasso or Galileo is also available to us. Our divine relationship to this universal spirit becomes clear when we begin to use the power at our disposal for definite purposes. Now, in order to reach this stage, we need to move beyond some of the conditioning we've been brought up with and learned during our lifetime. Some of these conditioned thoughts include, I am not in charge of my life. The force is outside of me. This conditioned response allows us to make excuses for the circumstances in our lives and place the responsibility on blame on something or someone outside of ourselves when things aren't going the way we wish they would. But we can shift this perception at any time when we realize the vital force of the universe is exactly what you are. When we take a step back and focus on our breath and notice the sounds, textures, smells, and steams, we can step into the experience of the life energy flowing through our senses. 2, people can't manifest. It's all function of the cosmic throw of dice. This is a mistaken idea that we are powerless to overcome, achieve, or manifest, that we are a victim of circumstance or bad luck. This is the old I can't conditioned attitude or response. There's an old statement that says whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. However, the truth is when we do discover our true identity and recognize we are the universe, the seemingly impossible absolutely becomes possible. Suddenly, I can go from being a shy guy 7 years ago to being able to stand up here in front of people giving a talk. I could not foresee that happening 7 years ago in my life. 3, I've tried before and it's never worked for me. I can't lead to this excuse or conditioned response. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to change my attitude. I'm trying to perform better at my job. Trying implies struggle, working on something, giving it our best shot, setting goals. Not necessarily bad things, but when we fail, we give up or we quit. How we can shift the consciousness away from this conditioned response is to stop thinking about past attempts and failures. Focus on the moment. Think of the things you do every day that you don't even think about. You pick up a pencil or a pen off the table. You didn't try to pick up the pen off the table. There is no such thing as trying. You either pick it up or you don't. Wayne Dyer writes, the universe is rich with abundance that will be provided to you when you let go of reasoning that says your past must be your present. But your past is just an illusion. The only moment you have is right here and right now. So begin again. 4, only highly evolved beings can manifest. Believe it or not, I see this in many spiritual circles, particularly the Course in Miracles community. When we place gurus and teachers and speakers and writers on pedestals, we are denying the very existence of our true nature. We are playing the ego's game of separateness. I'm not suggesting you can't be genuinely moved or inspired by them and be grateful for their contribution and admire their success. However, you share in the very same divine essence they do. If you are ever going to become a manifester, you must refuse to put others above or below you, but instead see them as you. Love your neighbor as yourself simply does not mean treat them the way you want to be treated. It's recognizing the same spirit within them is the same spirit within you. The first principle of manifestation, becoming aware of your higher self, is to help you to overcome this past conditioning. Or as Ernest Holmes likes to put it, change your thinking, change your life. Or the New Testament, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So here are 4 tips to help you along the path of becoming aware of your higher self. Here's a useful description of enlightenment. To be immersed and surrounded by peace. The ego thrives on separation, judgment, competition, comparison from all others, especially God. Your higher self desires for you only peace. The ego likes to deem you and others worthy or unworthy, right or wrong. Wayne Dyer advises, when you find yourself in this situation where you want to react, ask yourself this question. Is what I'm about to say or do going to bring me peace? If the answer is yes, then go with it, and you will be allowing yourself the wisdom of your higher self. If the answer is no, then remind yourself that it is your ego at work. Tip number 2, go beyond the restriction of the physical plane. This is where you go within and find a sacred space where you connect with your higher self. Prayer, meditation, yoga are all helpful spiritual practices that allow you to connect to your higher self. And the more you do it, the more you become aware of this presence even when you're not meditating. Even in the midst of whatever storm you may be going on around you, you can still connect to this divine essence. Wayne Dyer describes this inner sanctuary where a light is born inside you become to know and respect. That light is already in you. You already are a child of God. 3, and this one's tough for me. Refuse to defend yourself to anyone or anything. This one is a challenge for me. It happened yesterday, and I'll share that in a minute. But we must learn to stay connected to our higher self regardless of what is going on around us. A Course in Miracles says the ego seeks to drive and separate. The spirit seeks to unify and heal. Allow others to have their point of view. You are at peace, so be at peace. 4, finally, surrender and trust the wisdom that created you. I'm going to share Wayne's actual words here because it's so beautiful. You are developing a faith that transcends the beliefs and teachings of others. This trust is your corner of freedom, and it will always be yours. Now, I don't believe in coincidence. My experience on the spiritual awakening tour over the past 50 years has demonstrated that to be true. But I was involved in a particular timely issue with this. Yesterday, I had a disagreement with someone, a family member, and I challenged them. I questioned what they meant. I offered what I felt was a more compassionate, less judgmental view and a defense of a class of people who I felt were being scapegoated. Well, this person took great offense and accused me of attacking them and not respecting their opinion. Well, I did initially attempt to defend myself, and I think you can guess how that worked out. They doubled down on the accusation and actually grew incredibly hostile. My ego kicked into high gear. I'm going to show you exactly what I did. I started typing rebuke so fierce, then I erased it, put my phone down, picked it up again, started typing again, erased it, put my phone down. I got Kim involved. I asked her for validation. I started typing again, erased it, put my phone down. That was actually happening at the party last night. I was allowing the situation to rob me of the joy of being present with all these incredible people. During this entire process, that still small intuitive voice was in my mind saying, is what am I about to say or do going to give me peace? The answer was obviously no. That doesn't mean to say on the way home I wasn't still going off about this and saying, I can't believe she did that. But I'm not so spiritually evolved that I have overcome these types of situations. But the tools are there. The tools are there that I can access it. But this is why I believe we are here in this center, to hear these spiritual truths, learn these spiritual insights, access our higher selves so we can manifest, create, and maintain more peaceful lives, experience greater abundance, live more enthusiastically, and love one another more deeply. And so it is.